PokeClass is sponsored by CollectorsCash.com, your #1 online store for all you need for the Pokemon trading card game. They have all the top competitive and collector's cards on the market at prices you won't find lower anywhere else. Whether you're after tins and packs from the current format, or just looking for those hard to get primes to finish off your deck, Collector's Cash is your place to go. Make sure you check them out at www.collectorscash.com. Welcome to PokeClass episode 47, and as you can hopefully see, I have a new camera. This will show a lot more quality than the camera I was using before, and now means that I can get extra footage for these episodes when out and about at tournaments. For those of you that are interested, the camera is a Sony Bloggy Touch, and it really is a nice camera to work with. Aside from the new camera, I also have a brand new intro courtesy of the YouTube user Zimples, who is a fellow player and collector from the UK, and as you'll be able to see in a second, his skills with motion graphics are incredible. He has a YouTube channel which focuses on collecting pack openings, TCBMs and other stuff like that, so make sure you check him out by clicking here, and I'll also put him on the front page of my channel too. So enough rambling from me, and on to my third tournament report of the Battle Road season. Hope you enjoy the new intro. So last weekend I made the trip to Sutton Coldfield for my third Battle Roads tournament so far of this year. I haven't been having the best of times at the tournament so far, and I've also been struggling to find a deck I want as my main one, so these tournaments have kind of been like a testing ground for me so far. On the day, we had ourselves just the 4 rounds of Swiss in the best of 3 format, and ended up with a top 2, which isn't the best, but at least we get some good games of Pokemon. As for the deck I was playing, I still stuck with a Stage 1 variant, but I went back to the standard Stage 1 build with Donphan, Yanmega and Zoroark, but with a tech of 2 Zekrom. With Zekrom being such a force at the minute, Donphan seemed to have a strong presence in the matchup, so I decided to go for it for today. The Zekrom may have seemed a bit random, but it's a really good card against Yanmega and Tornadus when you've been building up damage on the bench with Donphan. Round 1, I get paired against Ben, who I've seen around in previous seasons and at previous tournaments, and we finally get to play against each other. I know his deck right away, and he's playing Mewbox with Varplume. This immediately gives me a bit wary because it's one of my deck's strongest matchups, as Muck can give Donphan some trouble with Sludge Drag, and not being able to play trainers means that Catcher is completely out of the question. So game 1 I get to go first, which is a great help when playing Stage 1s, but the unfortunate thing is I start with a Phanpy. My initial strategy for this matchup is to just keep Donphan completely out of the game altogether. This means that Mew can't lock me because my other retreat costs are pretty manageable with the amount of energy I run, but starting with Phanpy means that I won't be able to avoid the lock altogether. I'm able to search out 3 Yanma to start evolving into Yanmega the next turn to take those swift prizes on the Mews. He gets a great setup and manages to get some Flora set up by the second turn, with me being only able to KO a single benched Oddish. I do decide to get out the Donphan and start taking some Earthquake prizes, which is actually my downfall when I get locked by a Sludge Drag while he picks off some bench prizes for the majority of the rest of the game. I managed to manually retreat Donphan with 2 double colourless energy to bring the prizes down to 2 apiece. At this point, he drags up my Donphan again, but I managed to flip heads on Confusion to take another prize. While we're tied in prizes, all I need for the win is another energy to manually retreat the Donphan for a second time, but after Junipers and Copycats, I still can't get it, and he takes the final prize with Yanmega. After that pretty eventful game, we move on to game 2, which is bound to be a short one. This game, I managed to get a really fast start, and Varplume doesn't really bother me at all, while I get quick prizes with just 3 Yanmegas on the field. This way, I'm able to stay on the offensive without the threat of being Sludge Dragged, but his Mismagius tech does get a couple of KOs with my hand size, having to match, even though it's full of trainers and supporters, resulting in some very high damage with Poltergeist. However, the sheer speed of my offensive Yanmegas really keeps the pressure on, and I eventually win out for the second game after time is called by attaching a Rainbow Energy to linear attack without having to match hand sizes. Since time is called, we're forced to go into a third and final sudden death game, which is great for me and probably the worst case scenario for him. And to make things worse, I get to go first. He starts double Mew while I start with Zekrom to add 20 damage of Outrage straight away. All he can do is switch for a fresh Mew and then see off Mismagius to be offensive on the second turn at least. Unfortunately for him, I'm able to play a plus power, use Juniper and draw into a capture and Junkarm to reuse the plus power and carry the bench Mew with Outrage. Sudden deaths are always a frustrating experience for the losing player, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So I'm on to 1-0 and I really need to win them all to guarantee a top 2 spot. Round 2, I'm up against Charles Barton, who you may remember from my Manchester Battle Roads report 2 weeks back, but this time he's playing Zekrom. So game 1, I go second, which has currently happened every time I've played against Zekrom, but I do start with 3 bench Fampies with Yanma active. He proceeds to get a pretty decent bench full of Tornadus, and I'm pretty much stuck with an awful hand. I have to play Collector to grab some Zekrom and just pass to my frustration. His turn, he gets to turn 2 Hurricane and a catcher on one of my Fampi to rule at least one of the Donphan out of the game. From here, I managed to scramble together a Donphan to start Earthquaking and build up some damage on my Zekroms. The game actually goes quite stale from here with both of us drawing dead and me having to Earthquake for some pretty mediocre damage each and every turn. However, by the time he's stopped drawing bad cards, I continue to draw nothing that can help me draw by the time I'm around 4 prizes down. I play the game out to keep him on time constraints and it's on to game 2. So I get to go first this time, which is such a massive advantage in the Zekrom matchup, and grab some Pokemon with Pokemon Collector. His start is actually pretty slow, which allows me to set up some responses to his large attackers. Throughout the game, the Zoroark I'm setting up on the bench just get captured up and KO'd, leaving me with just Yanmega and Donphan to attack, while he is mainly going aggressive with Tornadus. I managed to keep up with a prize trade through using Yanmega for free, while he misses a few Hurricanes due to the lack of energy, and it comes down to 1 prize each by the time time is called. Time goes in my favour, so on the last turn I'm able to capture up a bench Shaman, Professor Juniper for a new hand because it's my only supporter to get my hand size back up, and can burn a few resources to Sonic Boom for the last prize. So this brings me to my second sudden death of the day, which isn't where you want to be against Zekrom, especially when you go second with a lone Yanma active. His start isn't the best with a lone Tornadus, but he is able to Juniper his hand away to hit a Pachirisu, 2 Lightning Energy and the switch to get the turn 1 on my Yanma. Not the way that a good match should end, but that's Pokemon for you. So round 3, I'm paired up against Tommy Roberts, who I know and play against regularly, and he's playing the same Gothitelle list as last weekend. This is probably the only deck I didn't want to play against today, since it is my deck's pretty much auto loss, but it's worth giving it a try in best of 3. So game 1, I get to go first and he starts with double Cleffa. This game actually only lasts around 5 minutes because I'm able to get Yanmega going turn 2 with various catcher KOs and Sonic Booms while he can't get anything after I judged the great hand he had, as he told me after the games. Going back, I wish I had taken a little bit more time to play this game out, because it would have given me the win I needed to win on time in the end eventually, but I didn't realise how quickly the game was going at the start. Game 2, I get a great start again, but by taking the initial prize, he was able to start the Twins chain for the next few turns, after using Tropical Beach to draw cards, and I was pretty much done for from there. He also ran a tech of Serperior to make damage management a lot easier for him, which made my job a lot harder with my already low damage cap. The only way it was possible for me to win would be benching Zekroms and making them absorb Earthquake damage until they could one-hit KO Gothitelle with Outrage, but obviously that's not a very effective strategy and it's on to game 3. So there isn't really that much to say for this game since it was pretty much an identical situation to game 2. He gets out of Serperior, which can help him to just absorb the damage that I can't build up, and I lose in a very long and painful game. So I'm down to 1-2, which isn't great, but my games have all been pretty close so far, and I had to play the hardest matchup possible. On to round 4, and I was hoping to even my record for the day. So this game was against a guy called Daniel Willington, who is playing Donphan with Dragons. This matchup is actually not too bad for me because my Donphans are great against his Zekrom, while Zoroarks are amazing at taking down those dragons in one shot by copying their attacks without needing to add the damage on myself. Game 1 actually goes pretty badly for me, but I'm able to keep up the prize trade by the skin of my teeth. I run dry on supporters for around 4 or 5 turns in this game, which is pretty frustrating, but I'm able to keep up with a Donphan in the active spot, whittling down the HP on all of his high HP attackers. By the time I have Zorak set up, it's getting captured and KO'd with Donphan, so those are pretty much useless. By the time we're down to a single prize each, he has the win on his turn while I'll have the win on my end. So I lose the game 1 by a small amount and onto a very swift game 2. This game goes really strong for me and pretty bad for him. I get to go first and have a turn 2 Donphan, which is KOing any Phanpy that hits the bench, since he uses the Call of Legends one with just 60 HP. I do manage to get a couple of Yanmega out to handle the rush of Donphans he manages to get out by the end, and then he drops Ruins of Alph to make that strategy pretty much ineffective. Seeing this, I'm able to change my strategy into a more offensive one by sticking with Donphan and burning through my deck to get the catcher KOs on his bench. A pretty messy matchup in general, which relies a lot on who can get the catchers first. So game 3 goes pretty much the same as game 1, but we're both pretty well set up and tied in prizes when time is called. I get the extra turn and I'm able to set up a care on the bench with Yanmega while avoiding a prize getting taken against me to seal the win. In this game, he actually forgot to take a prize at the very beginning of the game, which would have made it extremely close, but we both get warnings and the game continues with him not being able to take the prize. This works very well in my favour, and I end the day on 2-2, which I'm actually fairly happy with, if you look at what I played and how my games panned out. In the finals, we saw Reshiram Typhlosion take on Zekrom in the top 2, with Reshiram coming out on top to take an undefeated win on the day. So that is pretty much all I have for you today, but I just want to take this time to update you on what I've done to my website over the past few months. If you haven't been to it yet, then I've completely changed the design to make it a little bit nicer to look at, as well as change the way the content is organised when you're browsing around. The main focus of the website now is all about articles that you, the community, want to share with the rest of the Pokemon players from around the world. As you can guess, we only have a couple of articles at the moment, so if you want to get involved and have your chance of writing for the site, then all you need to do is go to pokemondan.co.uk, sign up in the box on the right hand side, and then click submit an article. I'll be writing for the site as well, and I've already got some up there at the moment you should go and check out. From the screenshots that you are seeing at the moment, you may also notice there is a video game section, and I've decided to include this because of the increased support for the competitive video game by Play Pokemon this season. This section already has an article written for it at the moment, and it will continue to grow if those of you that have the knowledge sign up and become a part of the community. I will be applying some kind of reward system for those of you who contribute to the site in the future, so if you want a heads up on the numbers, then get submitting soon. So thanks for watching today's PokeClass. Make sure you rate, comment and subscribe in the bottom left and top right hand corner in a second, and I'll see you all next week.